Now, let me mention, going from the Republican side to the Democratic side, we have news on the Democratic primary side, focusing as we have been recently on state rather than national polls. We have stunning poll results from New Hampshire on the Democratic side. In a new CNN WMUR poll of Democratic primary voters in New Hampshire, the most recent poll we have right now, Bernie Sanders, Democratic presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders has opened a 27-point lead over Hillary Clinton. That is 60-33. Even averaging this new poll into an average of recent New Hampshire polls, Bernie Sanders is now leading by an average of 11.4 percentage points in New Hampshire. This is the state where we expected Bernie to do best, to have the strongest showing. The neighboring state to his home state of Vermont, where he is the independent senator who caucuses with Democrats. But if the next two or three polls show similar numbers, this could be a very significant lead in New Hampshire, a state which, admittedly, Lewis, does not have that many delegates at stake.
No, but an important win, nevertheless, for Bernie, because it will just help his campaign. Of course, you want to win as many of these as possible. It seems like he will win. I hope that these numbers are accurate.
Meanwhile, in Iowa, which is the first of the first two primary states, new polls have Hillary Clinton leading by 2, 21, and 6, respectively. And Hillary Clinton leads by about an average of 4 percentage points in an average of recent polls in Iowa. That is within or very close to the margin of error for many of these polls. So why are the New Hampshire numbers significant? We've been talking about maybe a small win for Bernie in New Hampshire and a small win for Iowa for Hillary Clinton. Iowa has 54 delegates and New Hampshire has 32. So if the results in Iowa and New Hampshire track the current averages of recent polls, Bernie would get 23 delegates in Iowa and 16 delegates in New Hampshire. He would come away from those first two primaries with 45% of the delegates. Now, if the most recent numbers in New Hampshire hold true, that is, if Bernie Sanders has opened up a bigger lead in New Hampshire and he gets the 23 delegates in Iowa and 19 delegates in New Hampshire, that is 49 point something percent of the delegates from those first two states. It is a virtual tie after the first two states. Put aside for a second that Hillary Clinton appears to already have pledged delegates before any votes have even been cast. We'll deal with that at some point. This means that we could have a virtual dead heat after the first two primary elections, and then Bernie Sanders' candidacy would be way too difficult to ignore, wouldn't it, Lewis?
I think so. I guess winning those early primaries, yeah, it'd be great for him for his name recognition. And I guess we're kind of hoping that, something drastic will happen to the Hillary campaign in between. But, I don't see her numbers changing much at this point.
I want to be clear. If given the choice between Hillary Clinton and any of the Republican nominees,
Abundantly clear,
Hillary Clinton is by far the best candidate. Given a choice between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, I'm a progressive, and Bernie Sanders is far more progressive than Hillary Clinton. Single-payer health care as opposed to the Affordable Care Act. We've talked about Glass-Steagall. We've talked about marijuana. We've talked about so many other things, $15 minimum wage versus $12 minimum wage, et cetera, et cetera. Last thought on this. Nationally, Hillary Clinton is up 13 in an average of recent polls, receiving a little bit of a boost after dropping over the last month. We have to follow this and see what ultimately happens. I remain convinced, Lewis, that we are going to have a race on the Democratic side for longer than many people think. I don't know who will ultimately win, but it is going to be a race for a while.
Probably, but I hope you're wrong. I hope Bernie just sweeps. I hope he wins early, and that momentum just snowballs, and I hope he completely sweeps, Dave. I think it would be wonderful.
We are going to have a guest coming up on the show who certainly seems to think that is going to happen, and we will talk with him about whether that is evidence-based or not. That's coming up on a future episode of the show.